Hello, my name's Alice and I'm 27 years old. This past year's been somewhat of a roller coaster, and I finally am in the right headspace to share my story of how my nightmare of a mother-in-law was finally put in her place. Let's start with me introducing my husband Alfred and I. We met at a coffee shop when we were teens. I was a barista and he happened to walk in one day and I was instantly smitten. He felt the same way, so we struck up a conversation. We became friends first, and after a good year and a half, we started dating. We ended up moving to separate states so we could pursue college and our careers, so we broke up. We still kept in touch with each other and regularly updated each other about our lives, but we were not a couple. Eventually, we found our way back to our hometown and back into each other's lives. We took it as a sign that we were meant to be. We dated for a year before we decided that we needed to get married. After all, we went through so much and still ended up together. We celebrated our love and marriage in the midst of only our closest friends and family. Now, to people who didn't know of our history, they'd think that 1 year was too short of a time to decide to get married. One of those people was Alfred's mother, Samantha. Samantha was something, and I mean that in the worst way possible. She was very controlling and possessive of Alfred. That was why when we first started dating when we were younger, we had to sneak around and pretend like we didn't even know each other, just so Samantha wouldn't go crazy on Alfred. So when she found out that we were in fact together years later and that we decided to tie the knot, she did not like it. She decided to make my life hell. She would constantly come over to our house just so she could pick fights with me. At first, I'd sit quiet and let her words affect me. I figured that if I just gave her some time to adjust to me being a part of her family, she'd stop being so mean. But that never happened. Alfred and his dad, Lawrence, kept standing up for me, and that only made things worse because Samantha would take that as proof that I was changing her son. She would keep trying to assert the fact that she was his mother, and therefore she knew him better. I didn't have a problem with that, except that she didn't actually know him or his likes at all. In her eyes, he was still a child, and this only peeved me even more. Eventually, it just got to a point where I just started retaliating back whenever she had something mean to say to me. This only happened after about 3 years of dealing with her nonsense, so I gave her plenty of time to change and become better. Things started to go south when one Thanksgiving, Alfred and I offered to host. Samantha was not happy about that at all, because in her head, that meant that I was stealing one more thing from her. I tried my best to involve her in the Thanksgiving preparations, but she refused to be a part of it. So you can imagine my surprise and annoyance when she showed up at my house with a second turkey. Samantha, why did you bring a second turkey for this Thanksgiving? There's nothing wrong with having more. You know that Alfred and I are hosting, right? We have a perfectly good turkey. Let's see whose turkey gets eaten the most. Why are you trying to start a fight? Can we not do this on a day that we're supposed to be grateful? I'm not trying to start a fight. All I'm saying is that we have a friendly competition. Samantha, I mean this in the nicest way, but you become jealous and mean whenever you lose a competition. You start yelling at everyone and no one wants to deal with that. When have I ever done that? Last Christmas. You got upset that Alfred cried at the present I gave him and not at your present after you told me that I didn't know Alfred as well as you. I can't help the fact that you changed my son entirely. You made him different. Or, you just don't know him that well. How dare you say that? I have tried my best to get him to see that he could do so much better than you, and he's still staying with you. Did you ever think that he just loves me? I'm not forcing him to stay with me at all. I know a lie when I see one. Don't even try to convince me that you haven't trapped Alfred here. Your charms may work on him, but they definitely don't work on me. You sound unhinged. I promise you that if you just went and talked to Alfred, he'd tell you himself that he wants to stay with me. Whatever. I will get him to leave you, mark my words. Honestly, try your best. I'm curious to see how this would work out. I was beyond upset, but I just let things play out. Just like I predicted, everyone ate more of my turkey than hers, and she had a whole fit about it. Not wanting to deal with her nonsense, Alfred had her go home. She did not like that one bit, and she looked at me menacingly when she left. After that, I did not hear a word from her for the next 2 months. I did think it was pretty suspicious, considering the woman couldn't go a week without either calling or coming over to start a fight. At first, Alfred and I were very worried about her absence. We thought that something wasn't right and that she was probably planning something bad. But as the weeks passed by, we slowly began to think that maybe things were changing for the better. That was until one day, Samantha invited us over for dinner at her place. I was honestly dreading it because my gut was telling me that she had something up her sleeve, and it was so irritating that I didn't know what it was. Nevertheless, Alfred and I went over to her place, and after dinner Samantha asked me if she could speak to me in private. "Alice, I need to speak to you for a second." "Okay, what's up?" "Look, I have some devastating information on you, so before I reveal it to the family, I'm going to give you an option to either leave or stay and watch your marriage fail." "What in the world are you talking about?" "Let's just say that I have incriminating evidence of you having an affair." "Excuse me?" "That's right. Now, why don't you just run away with your tail between your legs, huh?" "No, wait. Where did you get this evidence from?" "Why would I tell you that?" "I just need to know how legit this evidence is, that's it. You can trust me when I say that these pictures are legit." "Don't you think this is stretching it a bit too far? I mean, I know for a fact that I'm not cheating on Alfred." "You don't have to pretend in front of me." "You know what? I'm willing to bet that the pictures you have are fake. Why don't you go ahead and show them to Alfred? I'm sure that he'll see that they're fake too." "They are not fake. You are playing a very risky game." "I doubt I am. I know that you hate me, Samantha, but I'm tired of acting like you're smart about it." "How dare you!" "Look, I don't care what your evidence is or if you're going to show it to Alfred. In fact, I would be delighted to see it myself." "Fine, but don't you dare come crying to me when you see the evidence and Alfred decides to leave you." "Don't worry if that happens. You are definitely not someone I'm coming crying to." "Fine. Alfred and Lawrence, could you guys come to the living room? I have something that I want to show you guys." What followed next can only be described as hilarious. Samantha made a slideshow containing pictures that was supposed to be evidence of me cheating on Alfred. Except that anyone with even one functioning eye could tell that they were all photoshopped. I don't know how Samantha managed to figure out who I worked with, because the person she photoshopped me with was my coworker. His face was badly, and I mean really badly, photoshopped onto pictures that were clearly of Alfred and I. It took everything in me to not laugh in Samantha's face by the end of the slideshow. That was not the case with Alfred and Lawrence, though. Both of them were beyond confused about what was happening. What are we looking at? "What you're looking at is evidence that Alice is cheating on you." "What?" "I hired a private investigator to follow her around, and these are the pictures that he took." "You're kidding, right?" "Of course not. Look, isn't that her coworker?" "Mom, you do realize that all these pictures were taken at the exact same location that Alice and I went on dates to in the past 2 months, right? And that her coworker's face is just badly edited onto mine." "That is not the case at all." "Okay, even if we ignore the bad Photoshop job, why would Alice go to the same places that we frequent both together and alone? If she really had to cheat, why wouldn't she go to more private places where the chances of running into me were almost none?" "Are you accusing me of lying to you?" "That's exactly what I'm doing. You know, I have held my tongue for long enough, but what is your problem with Alice? She has been nothing but nice to you, and yet you've had it out to get her since the start. I'm just worried about you. That is a bold-faced lie, and you know it. You do not care about me at all. You just want her out of your life, regardless of how I feel. Why, Mom? Why? Don't you see what she's done to you? To our family? What are you even talking about? You've changed so much. You no longer care about me, and I can just never seem to understand who you are anymore. So you're jealous of Alice? Of course. She stole my son from me. I want her out of the picture for good, and you won't let that happen. Why would I? I didn't change because of her. It's because I grew up. She's in fact made me a better person than I was 10 years ago. Does the fact that I'm happy not matter to you at all? Of course it does, but you're happy with a lying, cheating woman, and I see no reason why you should be with her. These pictures are fake. She's not cheating on me. Have you ever gone through her phone? I bet you haven't. Do you know how easy it is to get on dating apps and remove all traces of you being on them? I know for a fact that she doesn't go on dating apps because she absolutely hates them. She refuses to even help her friends find people there. Why do you know so much about it anyway? That is enough. But I was just trying to show Alfred who Alice is. By making things up and trying to ruin their relationship? You've insulted them enough. Son, Alice, I'm so sorry that Samantha's behaving this way, but I'm afraid that I'll have to ask you both to leave. Honestly, after Lawrence and Samantha left, Alfred and I couldn't help but burst out laughing at Samantha's pathetic attempt to sabotage our relationship. We knew that the very fact that she was willing to go as far as to fabricate evidence was a very bad and concerning thing, but still, how it did not work in her favor at all had the both of us in stitches. Samantha didn't contact us for a week after that. Alfred did call his dad a few days after that dinner, and Lawrence apologized on Samantha's behalf again. To make up for it, Lawrence invited us over to dinner yet again that weekend. Alfred and I were apprehensive about it because we didn't want a repeat of the last time, but Lawrence pleaded with us, so we caved in and went over again. When we entered Lawrence's place, Lawrence and Samantha were sitting on the couch waiting for us. Thank you so much for coming here, Alfred and Alice. Yeah, of course, Dad. What's going on? Samantha's behavior last week was absolutely unacceptable, and I'm so sorry that all of that happened. I'm still not sorry for it, though. I was only trying to do what was right for my son. Of course. And speaking of doing the right thing, since you are so adamant about Alice cheating, and you decided to expose her in that way, I figured it's time I do the same for you. What are you talking about, honey? Why don't the both of you take a seat and we all just take a look at the screen over here? Samantha's face was pale. She tried to talk again, but was immediately silenced by the pictures on the screen. The first slide was a picture of Samantha's Tinder profile where, in her bio, she said that she was single and ready to mingle. Not to mention the age range that she set for men was 21 to 30 years old. That was gross in an entirely different manner. After that, we got to see text messages exchanged between her and multiple men. These texts dated to 2 whole years ago, and while some of the texts were just flirtatious, most of them were very explicit, and some even mentioned times that Samantha met up with these men. So not only had she been cheating over text, but she had also been physically cheating. That would explain the reason she knew so much about dating apps. Alfred and I just watched all the slides in absolute horror. It was one thing to think of Samantha as the devil, but for her to actually be this disgusting never occurred to me. Throughout the entire presentation, Samantha only grew more pale and more uncomfortable. Finally, at the end of it, all of us sat in silence until Alfred couldn't help but burst out in disgust. Mom, what is this? I found out about 2 years ago that you've been cheating on me, Samantha. How? You were constantly on your phone, which you always hid whenever I was in the room. It didn't take a genius to figure it out. Wow. Okay, so you accused me of cheating when you were the one doing it? That's rich. You stay out of it. Why should she? You didn't stay out of her and Alfred's relationship, and by inviting them here to see proof of your affairs, I have invited them to see the ugly side of you. Why didn't you just confront me about this earlier? Was this humiliation necessary? Of course this was necessary. You have no idea how much I loved you. I stayed with you because I believed that eventually you'd realize that you were doing something wrong and you'd come back to me. But as time went on and you only seemed to go after more men, I still stayed because I was in denial that our marriage of 20 years was gone. How could you do this, Mom? After everything that Dad has done for you, this is how you repay him? Oh, she clearly only cares about herself. It took me 20 long years to realize that. Not once has she ever done something for me. Seeing the way she treated you and Alice just made me snap. I can tolerate a lot of things, but mistreating my son is where I draw the line. I cannot believe that you humiliated me this way. What about me? You made our marriage an absolute joke. I want nothing to do with you. Here are the divorce papers. Sign them and get out of my life for good. You can't divorce me. I have nowhere to go. You should have thought about that before carrying on multiple affairs. Lawrence, thank you so much for standing up for us. Why don't you come stay with us until Samantha clears her things out? I would do anything for both of you, and I would very much like to take you up on that offer. Lord knows I do not want to see Samantha's face any longer. Lawrence grabbed his things and we made our way to our car. I was still pretty much walking in a daze because I could not wrap my head around what I had just found out and how Lawrence had ended his relationship. Samantha followed Lawrence everywhere, from when he left the living room to go get his bag to when he walked towards the car, begging him to forgive her and not leave her. At that moment, I felt such a strong amount of anger towards Samantha. If she stopped thinking about herself for a second, she'd see just how she'd hurt Lawrence. Lawrence didn't say a word to her and just silently sat in the car. When the three of us reached our home, we didn't really say anything to each other. I helped Lawrence settle in his bed and Alfred and I went to sleep. All of us were still reeling from the events of the night. The next morning, I made all of us some breakfast and finally broke the ice. We had a good long talk about everything that happened. Alfred and Lawrence bonded a lot, and Alfred grew a deeper appreciation for his dad. Over the next few months, Lawrence moved back into his house after Samantha left. Thankfully, Samantha did not make a big fuss with the divorce and peacefully signed the papers. They divided their assets and went their separate ways. Although word got around to Samantha's family about what she had done. If there's one thing you should know about Lawrence, it's that he's everyone's favorite person. What Samantha did was unacceptable and everyone shunned her as a result. She had nowhere to go and no one to support her. She refused to get a job because she was used to getting pampered by Lawrence. Now, when she was faced with the real world, she was crumbling. I didn't think I'd ever hear from her again because she hated me so much. So you can imagine my surprise when one day I got a phone call from an unknown number that turned out to be hers. Hello? Hi, Alice, it's me, Samantha. Oh, what's going on? A lot. Ever since Lawrence left me, my life has been going down this insane downward spiral. Well, that's what you get for cheating on the most wonderful man. I don't need to keep hearing that over and over again. I just called to ask you if you could help me out. Hold on a minute. You called me, the one person you wanted out of your family, for help? You do realize how ironic this is, right? I don't have any other options. None of my family respect me or want to help me out. Alfred and Lawrence both hung up on me as soon as they heard it was me on the other line. You're my last resort. Wow, things really must be very bad for you. Oh well, I wish you nothing but the best of luck. Don't you dare hang up on me. It's all because of you that I'm in this position today. Excuse me? And how did you figure that out? If you had just left me when I told you to leave, I would still be living luxuriously and not be struggling at all. And you'd still be cheating on your loving husband? Lawrence is not the angel you think he is. Everybody has their flaws, Samantha. Did he cheat on you? No. But what he did was put up with your humiliation for 2 years. You still don't see any fault in what you did, and the day that you understand your wrongs, you'll be living a much better life. Alice, please just help me out a little bit. I'm going to be living on the streets at this point, and I have no one to support me. I wish I could say that I feel bad for you, but I really don't. You put me through hell, and you kept trying to sabotage Alfred and me. I don't see why you don't deserve this punishment. For once in your life, get yourself together, get a job, and start figuring out how to do things. Alice, please. Bye, Samantha. The sheer audacity that Samantha had to call me, of all people, to beg for help was astounding. I felt a little bad for her, but she did make my life hell for years. There was absolutely no good memory that I had of her, except, of course, the memory of her getting put in her place by Lawrence. I told Lawrence and Alfred about Samantha's call, and the three of us had a good laugh about it. I did, however, follow what they did and blocked Samantha's number because I did not want to hear her voice for the foreseeable future. It's been a few months since that conversation with Samantha, and as far as I know, she finally did manage to get a job at a gas station somewhere. So at least she has money. She does crib and cries about her job a lot on social media, something that many of Alfred's family members have told us whenever they visited or we happened to talk to her. It's nice knowing that the same woman who made me struggle for so long was getting a taste of her own medicine. As for Lawrence, he struggled a lot after the divorce, not financially, but mentally. The more Alfred and I talked to him, the angrier we got with Samantha. Lawrence had loved her so deeply, and yet she decided to screw him over in the worst way possible. He struggled to cope with the fact that his relationship was over, so we convinced him to go through therapy. I can happily report that Lawrence is doing much better right now. While he may not be his old jolly self, he's definitely coming around to it. Alfred and I also decided to go through therapy to deal with everything related to Samantha, and while we too have a long way to go before we are healed, we're definitely making progress. If there's one thing I've learned throughout this experience, it's to never let anyone treat you like a doormat that they can just walk all over. In the meantime, Alfred, Lawrence, and I have found comfort in each other, and we've been spending a lot of time together. I don't know what's going to happen next, but only time will tell. Thank you so much for listening to my story.